Bran muffins were all the rage. I haven't seen many recipes for that lately, but you can make them taste pretty good though. All right. So we're going to talk about that part later. And then I'm going to start sharing the recipes here. I have two different ones that have a whole different take on a muffin. The first one I'm going to do is more of a sweet muffin. It's a blueberry, so we've got blueberry, but with avocados. So blueberry avocado muffin. So it's a nice spin on it. It's not too strong of a flavor all around. It's a more mild muffin, but it's still blueberry. The avocado, when you bake with avocado, you really can't taste the avocado. And avocado has so many nutritional benefits, and it really adds a creamier texture to your baked good, like muffins and others. I baked with avocados and brownies. So it's a really nice ingredient to put into your baked good if it's a recipe that calls for it. Don't shy away. Give it a try. So I'll start with that today. The next recipe after this one we'll do is a savory one, and we'll talk more about that after I complete this recipe. So I've already got the dry ingredients handy and all in the bowl here. So this one does call for white whole wheat flour. That's a flour I use quite frequently in my demonstrations, and I'll go into more detail about that with the picture of the bag to look for if you can find some. But it's not as nutty a taste as the regular whole wheat flour, not quite as heavy, and it's a little lighter in color. So it does make your muffins look more normal, you could say. A lot of times people won't even tell you used this flour compared to your all-purpose. You can still, though, go half and half if it's just too much for you at once to try the new grain, because, depending on your taste or your experience, you might think there is quite a bit of difference. So maybe you want to just start quarter in, half in, however you'd like to do it. I just go all in. I love this flour. We rarely use all-purpose, maybe for some sourdoughs. Last one I used bread flour. Actually, I don't really use all-purpose much. So anyway, so I've got just 2 cups of white whole wheat flour, some baking powder, baking soda, salt, and cinnamon is the spice in here. By the way, you'll get these recipes after class, so you don't have to worry about writing all this down or the exact amounts, because you'll get this after class with the class email. And it's just a teaspoon of cinnamon. I wouldn't mind upping that a little bit, because like I said, it is a pretty mild muffin. I'm not doing that today. You know what? Actually, I don't think I'm changing anything else today. So maybe I will. I'm going to add a little more cinnamon, because I don't like to change more than one thing at a time in my recipes. And this recipe was perfectly fine. So I'm just going to add a little more cinnamon and see if I like that better. So I'm going to put, I don't have the shaker part. So I'm just going to put my hand first. So in case I dump the whole thing out, right? Actually, I'm going to go about another teaspoon of cinnamon. We'll see what that does. And I'm just whisking it. I do whisk rather than stir. It does incorporate things better, does keep things lighter. So I do like to do that. So that's all set. Now I can smell the cinnamon. That's great. Okay, then we have, the recipe calls for 1 large ripe avocado. So that's kind of difficult, because when you go to the store, large can be a relative term. Sometimes you're not sure what large means. She didn't really give any more specifics. So I did see in the notes, though, that someone said, how much could you guess it was? And she said about a cup of avocado. For my avocados that I ever find, I never get nearly a cup of avocado. So last time I used about 2 medium, and that worked out just fine. So I'm going to do 2 medium. I waited to cut them in because I didn't want them to get all brown. So I'm going to put them in here, I believe. Yeah. I used to have an avocado. Does anybody have one of those avocado scoops? So you can get that pit out easily. They're great. If you can find one, they're great. We used to have them. I don't know. It's one of those things. Who knows what happened to it? So I'm going to make sure. Yep. I'm going to put it directly into this little stick blender I have here. That's all I do for my avocado. I just kind of squeeze it out of the skin there. That's a perfectly ripe avocado. That's perfect. So no dark spots I have to worry about getting out of there. And my hand's a little slippery. I don't want to use a knife when it's slippery. Okay, go back here. Yeah. Boy, these made, I think they timed perfectly, because timing the ripeness avocados can be tricky. Now this has a little bit of brown, not enough that I'm going to worry about it, especially because I'm baking with it. So we'll just put it in there. Yeah, actually, let me take, there was a little bit more than I wanted in the center there. So just a little bit. The brown, and maybe it's a mental thing for me, but I actually do think it tastes a little more bitter, not as good as the yellow. So I do take time to get out some of that brown if it's just a little much. If it's just here and there, some spots, I just leave it in there. So let me make sure this is good to go. Yeah, I think I got all the major brown spots out. Okay. So that's good. We're going to do that. My daughter tried growing an avocado with one of the seeds here, and it worked for a while, and then it just didn't. I mean, we're in the Midwest, it just didn't, it wasn't going to fly. So that was fun to try. Okay, so we've got the avocado in there. Then we're going to, let's see, skip that in the butter for adds applesauce. So what we're going to put in here is applesauce, avocado, eggs, maple syrup or honey, and yogurt and vanilla, and blend it until smooth, all in here. Last time it fit, I was surprised, but it went just fine. But I have an apron on just in case. So I'm going to measure a third a cup, I believe, of or half a cup of unsweetened applesauce. If you don't like to eat applesauce or need applesauce much, but you'd like to bake with some, I find it actually more economical to buy them in these little cups so they last longer, because applesauce, at least in our fridge, can get that mold pretty quickly. So I just started to buy cups, and that way I know one is a little under, it seems to be one is a little over a quarter cup. So I'm going to see if I can get a half a cup with about 1.5 of these, as I did last time. I didn't keep my half cup out. So here's my half cup. There's that much. And this is unsweetened. They do have unsweetened cinnamon applesauce now, I've seen. So one of these days, I think I'll try baking with that, see if that adds a little more kick, a little more cinnamon kick. Okay, so I'm going to put the applesauce directly in here. Really could use a liquid measuring cup for applesauce. It's like 2 large eggs. I'm going to crack them in the separate bowl here. Make sure I don't get shells in there, or that they're rotten. I've only ever had one rotten egg. Has anybody else cracked into an egg and it was rotten? My mom, she swore by that's why you should always make sure you crack them separately, but I've only had it happen once in my lifetime. But she wasn't wrong, it did happen. She was always worried about that though.
There is a way you can tell if it's fresh. It's something about put it in a glass of water, and if it goes to the bottom or it doesn't, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I read about that because I was wondering about my own eggs.
So there's okay, I'll have to look into that, because that'd be more convenient.